Welcome Dr. Miriam Adelson.
Ladies and gentlemen, חברים יקרים, shalom. Sheldon and I welcome you back to our home. 1 month ago, we had the immense honor and pleasure of hosting President Trump at the IAC National Summit in Florida. As you will all recall, it was a tremendous event. The president left no doubt as to the depth of his administration's commitment to the US-Israel alliance. He left no doubt as to his personal affection and respect for the Jewish people. He showed that, for us, he is not just a great leader, he is also a friend and a mensch. There has been much speculation about President Trump's special relationship with Jews and the Jewish homeland. Is it because he's a New Yorker, a businessman, a man who instinctively recognizes and supports a worthy and just cause, a man who admires those who get things done with grit and thrift and humor and determination? Perhaps. But I think there really is no mystery when you consider our esteemed guest today, Ivanka Trump. Ivanka Trump, the president's senior advisor and his eldest daughter. Ivanka is not just a trusted emissary for his administration with brains to match her stunning beauty. She is also one of the most consequential Jews of this or any generation. President Trump has often said how impressed he is by Ivanka's religious commitment. He loves and respects her as only father can. And naturally, that love and respect radiates out to her chosen faith and chosen people. Ivanka is a great American, and she is a great Jew and backer of Israel. Sheldon and I remember well the first time we met Ivanka and her husband Jared at the Republican debate at the Reagan Presidential Library in 2015. They were such an elegant couple, tall and exquisitely dressed, regal. And we quickly learned that they were beautiful on the inside, too. People of substance and spirit, devoted to one another and their shared values. When the US Embassy opened in Jerusalem, they were there to officiate and celebrate. And away from all the glamour and glare, they are managing to raise 3 gorgeous children as Orthodox Jews. No small challenge for a couple that is called upon to serve this great United States around the clock. Like her father before her, Ivanka is also a successful entrepreneur in her own right, a model for aspiring and independent women everywhere. For all this, we say to you, Ivanka, Yishar Koach. As you may know, when Ivanka converted, she took the Hebrew name Yael. In nature, the Yael is the ibex, a desert creature of grace and strength. In the Bible, Yael is a heroine. Though not herself an Israelite, she does the Jewish people an immense service in the fight against her worst enemies, the Canaanites. The biblical Yael won a place in Jewish history by being at once feminine, quick-witted, committed, and tough. Does that remind you of anyone here? Of course it does. Ivanka, you are among friends. You have brothers and a sister in Trump family, yes, but you also have millions of other soul siblings in Am Israel. Thank you for all you do. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ivanka Trump.
The leaders in this room who have pioneered important reforms to elevate one of the most undervalued resources in the world, the talent, the ambition, and the genius of women. Today, we are announcing the members of a new public-private advisory council partnership to end human trafficking, the first of its kind. Access to capital is far harder for women than men. In 70% of the developing world, women face inadequate access to capital and really an inability to access institutions altogether. On behalf of the 45th President of the United States of America, we welcome you officially and for the first time to the Embassy of the United States here in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. Thank you. Shalom. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm very grateful, and thank you for your friendship, you and Mr. Adelson. So really, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Ivanka. We start with question and answers. The first one is, it's not easy to convert. Certainly not to Orthodox Judaism. But you did it. Tell us about your decision to go on this journey. Was it because you were in love with Jared? Or also with Torah values? Is a religious Jewish life challenging for you?
So I never normally talk about this, but we're amongst friends, right? It's just us. It's funny, in retrospect, the decision is so right and so obvious. And at the time, obviously, going through the process, I stayed very open-minded because, as many of you in this room know, this is not a commitment you can enter into lightly. A decade later, Jared and I are grateful every day to have the grounding of the Jewish life that we enjoy together. But at the time, it was quite intimidating. The amount that I had to learn, the lifestyle that I was taking on. But it has been such an enormous blessing in our lives. And I see this especially as we raise our family and our children. I really think that so much of what makes Judaism special is how it ensures connectivity to family and family members, and especially in the roles we find ourselves in today, where we have an unprecedented situation of two parents working in the West Wing and raising a young family, making that time around Shabbat and around the Jewish holidays to invest in our relationship with each other, to disconnect from the world to the extent that we are able, is a tremendous blessing. So I feel incredibly grateful for the values that Judaism enables us to instill in our children, but also for all that it gives back to me and Jared in a relationship with one another. So I feel very blessed. You asked if I did it for love, and I guess the answer is in part, but no, because I actually converted before we became engaged. I felt that it was incredibly important to make the decision for myself and myself alone. And I felt that I needed to feel the connection deeply enough after going through 2 years of learning that it was something I wanted to do independent of my love for Jared and independent of our relationship. And if it wasn't something I was willing to do independent of my love for him, I wasn't sure that it could sustain itself over time. And I think in retrospect, I'm really glad that I looked at it that way, because it is a major commitment, and it's been a very, very, very fulfilling one, but I don't think somebody can do this for somebody else. You have to do it for yourself, and then it has benefits for the rest of your life. And that's more than I've ever said on the topic before.
So it's here, it's staying here, right? Yes. Okay. We Jews have been worried about the increase of anti-Semitic incidents in the United States. You were quick to condemn the recent knife attack on a Hanukkah party in Monsey. What else is the administration doing to fight back?
The full force and weight of the administration is daily combating anti-Semitism and seeking to catalyze action around the world, because there is too little action at a time when we need so much. So clearly, this president is an incredible supporter of the Jewish people, of the state of Israel, and the time of his presidency is so important. We are in an incredibly frightening moment, and there is a crisis, and we need to be able to talk about it. We need to be able to address it, and we need to be willing to go beyond words and take affirmative action. It was just weeks before, and I could go through all the different things. We just saw a little bit in the video, obviously, after decades and decades of people promising, and then they get into office, and it's a promise that was easy to forget or not follow through on. The president said, when I said that Jerusalem was the eternal capital, I meant it, and I will make it happen. And that was one of the early signs of his commitment to the Jewish people and the state of Israel. But just weeks prior to this most recent series of attacks in New York, and it's a pretty consistent and pretty egregious series of anti-Semitic attacks that has taken place, the president signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism in our universities. And everyone in this room knows how important this is, but it was becoming the status quo, and it was becoming normalized. And that is not okay, and it's not acceptable, and now there is recourse to take action. And so we were very, very excited to be able to sign that EO. We have an amazing envoy that helps combat anti-Semitism in all of its forms. I'm sure many of you know Ivanka, who's doing just a phenomenal job and who's leading so many different initiatives. We have an incredibly formidable ambassador in David Friedman, who represents America in Israel with such force and focus and strength, and is doing an amazing job. My husband is a great champion for the Jewish people and of course the state of Israel. And so the whole administration, starting at the very top with, of course, the president, but the whole administration is deeply committed to protecting the Jewish people, but also religious freedom generally. We've taken a level of rigor to our commitment to defend religious liberties in the United States and around the globe that has not been true of administrations in the recent past. So we're very, very proud of the legacy that hopefully we'll leave on that front, and the time is now to be taking significant action in this regard.
Which reminds me, when my Israeli friends are asking me what would be when they are worried about the situation in the Middle East and around us, when we are surrounded by the Hezbollah, and in Syria we have them, and in Gaza, what would be, Miri, what would be worrying? I said, don't worry, we have some angels around the president, and he's by himself one of them. So I'm sleeping well at night. Yeah, it's true. It's true. We are blessed with your family and the people that are working with you.
It is true, and in these incredibly complicated times, the security partnership between the United States and Israel is more critical than ever. So Israel knows that they have a partner in the president that they can rely on.
Ivanka, what initiatives have you been focused on these last 3 years at the White House, and which administration successes are you most proud of?
Oh, wow. It has been just remarkable 3 years on many levels. It's really, you go through this process and the campaign, and you travel across the country, and you hear from people things that they would never tell you, even if you were maybe their close friend, but they share with you their concerns, their anxieties, their hopes, because of the proximity of you to a person who may be the leader of the country. And so you learn so much, and you also take away a tremendous sense of debt and responsibility to make good on the promises, to work hard to uplift the people that you've met in states across the nation. So every single day I walk into the White House, a shiver goes up my spine, and I feel an enormous sense of privilege to be able to do the work I do. And the thing that I'm most passionate about, obviously we've talked about several of the things. I'm so passionate about our commitment to combating anti-Semitism and to ensuring the continuance and the furtherance of this great partnership we have with the State of Israel on a personal level and on so many levels. But what makes me really excited is creating a climate and working with the president to advance an agenda that lifts all Americans. And we're seeing that come to fruition. So we have a president who's enacted historic tax reform, who's created policies that have deregulated industries and enabled this country to grow, and created this foundation that has provided a springboard for countless Americans to realize their potential. And there's nothing more rewarding than that. When we travel around the country and we hear from people whose lives are impacted, more people are working in America today than ever in the history of this country. 160 million Americans Wages are rising. Poverty is at record lows. Every single demographic you look at, the number of unemployed disabled Americans is at the lowest in its history. And that's the dream. The dream is to ensure that everyone who's able, everyone who can work, is able to get a job, provide for their family, and experience this great thing we talk about as the American dream. So to be a partner with the president in helping realize that goal has been one of the great rewards. I fought hard to help pass historic tax reform. I'm very proud of the work that I've done on that front. Today, I was just the keynote speaker at CES, where I was talking about our commitment to workforce development. And this is something that I get so excited about, because the economy is so hot right now that employers are forced to get creative, and they're reaching outside of the workforce into the sidelines, and they're taking people who had been marginalized, who had been outside of the workforce, and they're pulling them in and they're equipping them with the skills they need to fill their job vacancies. And there's nothing better than that. So in the past year, of all the new jobs created, and just to put this in context, 7 million plus jobs have been created by the president since election. 7 million. These are new jobs. So, when people say, oh, well, we were on a good trajectory, CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, had projected that as of December of 2019, so 1 month ago, the economy would have created 2 million new jobs. The president has created 7 million new jobs. The number of vacant jobs for the first time in the history of this country, and this has been true for the past 16 months, exceeds the number of unemployed Americans by over 1 million. But what's not factored into that statistic is the people who aren't working but could be working. And what we're seeing now is that of all the new jobs secured in the last year in America, 73% of them went to people who weren't even unemployed. They were totally outside the workforce. But more opportunity, higher wages has brought them off the sidelines into the economy. They're being equipped with the skills by employers, by job training programs, to fill these job vacancies, and all of America's rising. So we are very excited by that. And I think on a personal level, that's what really motivates me, creating pathways to opportunity for all Americans. And I think we're doing that.
Ivanka, how do you manage to balance work and family? You seem to be calm with your children as I saw you. Do you even find it hard to be both mother and wife and a senior White House official?
Yes. It is very difficult, and maybe Dr. Adelson, I can ask you this question because you've done it very successfully, and the jury's out on me because my kids are still young, but I'm doing the best I can every single day. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So our family is a work in progress, but it is the single most important role I have in my life, and I'm committed to getting it right, but I'm not always calm. I try to be, but not always calm. I joke when people say, well, it must be so intense, the White House and everything going on and all the noise, and I say nothing is as intense as when I walk in the front door of my home and my kids bombard me. And by the way, then I got a dog, which seemed like a good idea, but now I have like another kid kind of, who, as my mother-in-law likes to tell me, won't give me grandchildren. A kid who won't give me grandchildren. But that's our dog, Winter. But, I thought about this a lot as, I was starting our family and in a different context in my life and in business, and, this idea of balance. And I almost hate even the notion, because balance implies a scale, and a scale inevitably tips, right? All of us are only one child's flu away from our life being knocked out of balance. Or one thing that comes up that isn't planned that's incredibly important, and I have a lot of those in the role that I'm serving professionally, that takes this beautifully structured schedule I tried to plan and create and throws it out the window, at least momentarily. So sure, there are things I can do, and I'm really rigorous. I'm taking I have multiple flights to get home tonight, so I can try to be there in the morning when my kids wake up. So I'm taking a connection as opposed to a direct. But so we do things like this to try and make sure we're where we need to be, even if it's a little bit tougher on ourselves. But the way I like to look at balance is really just to do a gut check with myself, whether it's every day, every week, every month, and ask myself if I'm living a life that aligns with my priorities. And some days I do great, other days I don't do as well, but generally as I look back over the course of each week, I think that more often than not, I'm where I need to be. And that's how I try to grade myself, that the life that I'm living and my family is living aligns with our values, and that I'm staying true to those. So rather than think about balance, I think about it through the prism of priorities and what we're trying to teach our children.
Ivanka, we conservatives and pro-Israel activists are unfortunately often the targets of unfair media attention and public smears. You have received...
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, you have received more than your share of such cruel scrutiny. How do you deal with this? How do you protect your family and friends from it?
You know, a lot of times people will say you put up with a lot, the amount of incoming, and by the way, anything anyone puts up with is this big compared with the amount of incoming my father, the president, takes. So most very tough, strong men would be in a corner sucking their thumb crying based on what he receives over a 5-minute period of time on any given day of the week. I actually think it's, yes, there's sort of the predictable stuff that just seems to be, unfortunately, the way that things are these days. But the love and the outpouring of support in communities such as this, but across the nation is unbelievable. And it far more than counteracts, the Twitter heckler that may be throwing negativity your way. So for me, moments of not healing, but moments that really galvanize me and excite me and propel me forward are when I am able to travel around the country and meet with people who are benefiting from this presidency. They feel safer, they are more prosperous, there's more opportunity available for them and the people in their lives that they love and their community at large. And I just feel really happy and fulfilled. And so I really don't let any of the other stuff distract me or get me down. And I make sure, because I'm cognizant of the fact that whether it's today or tomorrow, my kids will be exposed to some of this. Actually, I've got a funny story on this front, but I make sure to come home and share with my children what people have told me, what I've heard, what I've experienced in my travels. And it means a lot to them. They get it. Even the littlest one, he gets it. The number of people who will pull me aside and say that your father saved this country, it's beautiful, and they mean it. And it's a remarkable thing. So I feel a lot of love, but when I just started laughing to myself because I thought of something my daughter said recently. So, some kid at school, and it was one of the earlier experiences we've had with this because she's quite young, she's 8. Some kid at school was kind of talking trash, and he said something about the fact that she had Secret Service, and then he said something about her grandfather that was less than nice. And she tells me about it, and I said, well, what did you do? She's like, well, I told him to stop. And I go, did he? And she goes, no, he pushed me. And I said, what did you do? She goes, well, I went and told a teacher. I go, okay. And what did the teacher do? And she goes, well, she didn't do anything. And I go, okay. Well, what did you do next? She's like, well, I walked back over to him and I said, you want to talk about my grandfather? What have you ever done with your life? I go, what? And I go, oh, okay. And she goes, and then I knocked his hat off his head. I'm like, well, we could have done without that, but she wanted to know what he had ever done for his country. So, I think they're internalizing the message that there's, when you serve, you don't always, not everyone agrees with you, but it's a great privilege to serve your country that has given so much to you, and the kids are really proud.
Yeah, thank you. Our last question, Ivanka, because I understand you have to catch the flight, so last and short question, but our religious members are dying to know, what's your favorite kosher restaurant in New York, in Washington, D.C., and does the White House kitchen provide decent kosher food?
Ooh, New York, so easy. 2nd Avenue Deli.
Which one?
2nd Avenue Deli. It's excellent. Does anyone, do you not? Okay. It's phenomenal. It's, 2nd Avenue Deli. It's great. So that would be my favorite in New York. In Washington, it's my kitchen. It's my own home. So, and it's my kitchen. I love to cook with the kids, and that's the place that makes me the most happy. And in the White House, yes, they prepare, and on Air Force One. They have kosher meat for me and Jared, which we didn't ask for because we'll eat vegetarian. But the fact that they went out of their way to, whenever we travel and the kids travel, to have kosher food for us and kosher meat for us is amazing. So Air Force One and the White House do a phenomenal job. So.
Okay, Ivanka, thank you. I understand you have to leave, and
thank you.
We thank you so much.
And I'll just say before I leave, this is such a tremendous honor. And on behalf of the president, who I was talking to actually as I was pulling up the driveway, he sends his regards and his great thanks and appreciation to all that you do, Dr. Adelson, in this community and for the Jewish community across the country and around the world. So he sends his personal regards to each of you here, and really learning more about not only IAC, I knew about it, and the president loved his experience just last month, and it really warmed his heart. We were talking earlier about this moment with some young children who were in attendance that really moved him. But learning about this Vegas chapter and the community and hearing from some of the people representing the different programs you stood up, that's what Judaism is about. It's about community, and it's about involvement and engagement, and family, extended family and otherwise. So really, really great work. I hope you keep it up. I'm so glad that this evening was a success, and this is a true privilege and the honor of a lifetime. So thank you for the recognition.
Ivanka, this is
award tonight.
Dory?
So thank you, Dory.
Once more for Ivanka and Dr. Miriam Adelson.